Hello and welcome to Core Values, the All Things Broken Arrow Schools podcast. I'm Dylan Rivera here with Mr. Chuck Perry, the Superintendent of Broken Arrow Public Schools. Brandon Chitty is across from me here, the Executive Director of Instructional Technology. And you told me there's a lot more words to that too,
Yeah,
but we'll stop there. And then Ashley Bowser, our Assistant Superintendent here as well. I want to start by talking to you guys about just your journeys through Broken Arrow before we get into talking about AI and technology and how all of that is driving through education, right? But Mr. Chitty, let's start with you. Tell us about your educational journey and your current role with the district.
Yeah, man, you could probably start that conversation.
Yeah,
right?
a little bit, yeah.
One really cool thing is I was your sixth grade science teacher.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's great to see you in this position, and you're killing it, man.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank
excited about today and just the time we get to spend together. But I started teaching in Broken Arrow in 2007. I finally knew what I was doing by 2010. And, as a teacher, it takes a while. It's a hard job, man. And so really did that. And then in 2014, really kind of started developing our Google space and what that could look like for students to learn in a new wave of the world, which is really driven by technology, and really worked on the one-to-one kind of space as well, and did that for a while. And in the last couple of years, just really been leading the district through instructional technology with our digital learning specialist, and really leading the charge on what we're doing in our virtual learning spaces as well. And so just really involved in a lot of innovation in the district and where instruction needs to go to make sure that our students are prepared for their future.
It's really great. Mr. Bowser, what about you?
So I started in the district in 2001. It's always be etched in my brain because started in August and then September 11th happened, and so coming up on really 25 years next year in the school district. So kind of crazy, but I started out as a speech and debate and broadcasting teacher, so it's kind of fun to be back here doing this.
Yeah.
We didn't do podcasts at that time. We were doing morning announcements on a daily routine and that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that. I did that for about 13 years, and then actually joined administration. Was an assistant principal at Sequoia Middle School for 3 years, principal at Centennial Middle School for a couple of years, and then have been in the technology world ever since then for the past 8, with the past 6 is serving on the superintendent's cabinet as both chief technology officer and assistant superintendent.
So technology is all around you guys. You guys know all about it. So let's get into that discussion.
Fantastic.
AI is driving a lot of things nowadays. What inspired our district's vision for integrating AI into education, and how do we see it shaping the future of our students and staff's learning and ability to teach? Either one of you.
Why don't you just start with kind of the vision, and I'll take the piece on the students and teachers.
Yeah. So I think the vision for us is that we want to embrace new technology. We don't want to be afraid of it. We know that it's here. You see AI everywhere, from the Face ID on your phones to Amazon suggesting this to streaming software suggesting, a new show for you to be able to watch. I mean, it's everywhere. And so ChatGPT really kind of changed that in a lot of ways, because it became more active as opposed to passive. And so as a result of that, our vision is to teach kids and staff how to be able to use AI in a way that's productive, because we know that they'll leave the 4 walls of our classrooms and go out into the world and have to interact in such a way to be effective in the world. And so that's really the sort of the core belief, is that we've got to teach them how to be able to use it in an effective, ethical way. And so that's what we're here to do.
And I think the key there is, let's not be afraid of it. Let's not try to close it out. Let's talk about the dangers of it and the pitfalls of it, and where the gaps are about the information that AI would provide a student. But at the same time, let's use it. It's a world we're going to live in, and things are changing so rapidly. It's keeping up with it. I mean, I remember my third year teaching, I got a computer in my classroom, so excited, and a CD disc of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and it was the greatest thing ever. But only one student could use it at a time, and to think how quickly now we're changing and evolving. Really, from about every 2 to 3 years, it's almost a turnover of what's been done in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, you see that in lots of facets throughout the school. I mean, you talking about that reminds me of filling out bubble sheets for attendance. To now we have an attendance system that makes automated calls when kids are absent. So, I mean, it's just interesting the evolution there.
And I'm really proud of our leadership here because I get to travel around to different schools and go to conferences and see where everybody's at in this space. And it's always a hot topic in the conferences that I'm going to and in instruction in general. And just to have leadership that's looking at this for the basis of what our goals are as educators, and that's to prepare students for the future that we might not even understand. But if we're limiting technology that drives future, then at that point we're being a detriment for so our jobs are to understand it, to take our professional judgment and figure out how can we still meet the goals for these students and move forward, because talk about rapidly changing, right? ChatGPT came, it was a language generative piece, right? Like you could tell it something and it can create text that seems human, right? And it blew our minds because it did something that we had to do a lot of, right? One of the things I'm most excited about is the fact that this can return passion to people. Over the last 20 years, people have been driven to do computing things, right? Like we've had to spend so much time, doing things that aren't natural. People are about relationships. People are about growing each other. And we've been put into these things to where we have to systematically build things and do things. And what we're starting to see is the relief of that. And we're scared because it's become our purpose, but it's not really our purpose. And so I'm really excited about the fact that when I talk to teachers about AI and what this can do is the power that it has to create engaging tools and to really be kind of like a co-pilot to a teacher.
An IEP for students, basically.
Yeah. I mean, think about like if you could relieve the teacher of having to start that from white space and it kind of create it through all the information that it kind of has. Now the teacher can have lots more energy to specifically, connect with our families and connect with those students and, teachers that are creating lesson plans. And, we were driven so much by like boxed instruction and these companies that develop stuff and tell us how to do things. And, we have such professional people in our space, and you give them these tools. Now they don't have to spend the energy, but then they have the energy to truly connect with kids, drive kids through instruction. I always say this, that instruction and education is a human endeavor. People are scared that this is going to take over, and there could be a future where we have AI bots and an experience where students sit down and this tool knows the student interest, it knows its academics, knows what its goals are, and so it creates this experience where they're learning from this, where it's personalized, right? But then what is the teacher's role in that? Well, what that can't do, right? Make connections with the students, make sure that they're engaged, make sure that they grow, put them in groups, create conversations with other kids, do the human part of this instructional strategy, which is huge.
And to know as a teacher, used to, if I asked you to if you understood a concept and you showed that you did not know it, that's as far as it really was able as a teacher to take it at times. And now we have AI that's going to show that both of you may not understand the concept, but it may be for two different reasons.
Right.
And it tells you what those specific reasons are from the way you've answered something. And so it is truly individualized education plan for all students down the road.
And that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
Like we're sitting here talking about all the great grandeur, right? And I think I think it would be a wonderful space if there was a tool that knew every student at a level of their best success and what was the next step, and then could communicate to the teacher and say, hey, student A, B, and D, put them together and have them do this because they all have these different skills, and then even have parents have this connection with school. Like I would love to know like where my kid is academically on the daily from a system that is truly monitoring them, that the teacher doesn't have to really jump into, right? But those are all those positive parts. And I know we're going to have some questions about some of the things that are a little bit more scary because there's always two sides of it. And as Broken Arrow Public Schools, we're not ignoring those things, but we live in a world where we know that this is the reality now. And so we have to educate on both sides, educate where we can use it the best to get the best outcomes. And we need to educate where we need to watch and be very wary and ensure, that our students are safe and protected and being educated to utilize, because the last thing you want with AI is that students avoid learning. right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is, to me, just such a powerful thing. I think that's the litmus test. Like, are they using it? Are they gaining knowledge? Are they gaining experience? Or are they avoiding the experience of learning, right? And if they're avoiding the experience of learning, then we need to go in a different direction. It's when you're starting to look at this and how do you use it appropriately, if you just drive to that, then it kind of simplifies that. Now, there are strategies to get to the part where they are learning. I mean, we're developing those. The space is changing so rapidly, but I think that's an important thing to consider.
Well, we talked about some big picture things, but let's kind of get back to the basics of it and let's simplify it. Can you briefly explain what AI is? And you kind of did there at the beginning, but how it's already being used in education right now.
Yeah, I think we see it being used. They alluded to the fact that teachers are using it to differentiate and address kids' needs. And I think one of the ways it's being used is to create like authentic experiences in the classroom. I've seen my own wife, who's a teacher, use it to be able to create, and other colleagues use it to create like an escape room kind of thing. And, you're plugging in the details, trying to create an experience for kids that they wouldn't have otherwise. And think about the benefit is some of the time saving that comes as a result of that, because just as Brandon was talking about, like if they don't have to spend all the time developing all of these individualized prompts or all these individualized things for kids, then they can spend it more on giving them feedback or using their own judgment to assess what their real needs are. And so I think those are some of the practical ways it can be used in the classroom. I can tell you from my own experience in working with my son, who's in the speech and debate program, like we use it as a brainstorming, activity. And so, just plugging in ideas and here's an argument. What would people say to that? How might we respond to that? And kind of vetting through those things, it gets kids to be able to think about things in a deeper way and use it in a way to be able to anticipate what others might say and think more critically. And then we can have discussions about what that looks like, right? I think the thing is that when you use it, you have to understand that it's a tool and doesn't always get the right answer and doesn't always, like I never asked ChatGPT how to do math. Because 9 times out of 10, I feel like, oh, that's not right. And so we work through that. But, the reality is that it's only by using the tool can we then figure out how to use the tool, if that makes sense. Like, we can talk all day long how to ride a bike, but until you actually get out there and ride the bike,
right.
And so the same thing is true with the use of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and to go back to like what it is, it has iterations. I mean, what it was 2 years ago, what surprised everybody with ChatGPT was just a language model, right? Then we have image generation. Mm-hmm. Then you have video generation, right? And I was showing Mr. Bowser just yesterday Canva, and we're going to train teachers on this because it just blows our mind. Canva has a tool that basically with dialogue, it will write code and create an experience online like a website through a conversation. So I did this the other day just to do something funny. I was like, hey, I want to be able to favorite like 90s songs that I want to play on the guitar and find which ones I like. I'd like them to be at level of difficulty and do all this. I put this into the prompt, and then it created this website that had a full library of all the 90 songs. It then allowed me to, click on it, put them in a favorite. It would then had the video of the song. It would label it by difficulty, and then I put it on the web. I sent it to my phone. Now it's like an app, and from one sentence. So the level of that, what I always say that now that's not really instructional, but a teacher, I was showing them, I asked it to say, hey, my students are learning about presidents. I would like them to have an interactive experience where they get to navigate around to different presidents, learn interesting facts about them, learn what they did important, but make it engaging and fun. It created this website that had a block for every president. It had some quick facts. You could click into it, and then it had like an experience to learn about that president. And it had them all in a timeline. It had multiple pages. Like, that's a lesson plan, right? That is a lesson plan that is driving the way that students experience learning currently. And I did it through a conversation, right?
And the interesting thing about that, though, is that we didn't go through iterations of the prompt or anything like that or investigate it more in depth. But one thing we did notice when we went through it was that all the presidents weren't listed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it only listed some of the presidents, right? And so that just, to me, that illustrates like it's a tool, but we also have to use our own judgment to be able to assess, is the tool giving us the right information? Are we using it in the right way?
Can I, from a global perspective, and this is more for our parents out there that wondering where Broken Arrow Public Schools is going with AI. I've heard stats that the public school education, the whole business of that is targeted at $20 to $30 billion a year in the U.S. And we've had these AI companies come after us continually. You probably get it weekly, daily, that are spend your money with us. And how do you navigate eliminating those ones that might have bias in them, and that we're spending our dollars wisely? We're good stewards of taxpayer dollars to find the right, because it does cost money, but how do we navigate through that?
Well, I mean, I would first say that it's easier than ever to develop online programming. I mean, I just told you I created a website within seconds to do that. So what you see is this generation of people that, it's your crypto people that just think they're going to make money real quick or whatever, right? And so like I could get online and I could create something and sell it with the least amount of effort as ever, right? I always say, like, right now, information is the cheapest it's ever been. So you have to be careful, right? And so this is the commitment we've made, is like, we've been very intentional of researching the space. We've done several pilots with teachers to see what are we missing, because freemium plans to do some of these things, usually hit on all those things. And so there's two big markets of Magic School and School AI that come in and really package the ChatGPT experience and pre-train it on education to make sure it washes away kind of the mess. But now with ChatGPT, you can almost train it yourself if you're on that level, right? And so they have these freemium plans and they have these other pieces. And I just feel like we're dealing with a brand new born baby. And to invest in something that we don't know what it will turn out to be in the future is really hard. And the teachers aren't banging down the doors, because what they can do in the current space at the zero cost level is really powerful. And so we're still trying to figure out we've gone from tools that just return messages to a tool that seem human, right? And then we go to the image, and now we're talking about creating code. And when I'm at these conferences and investigating this stuff, we've seen where now agents are actually acting and multitasking. So something that can go in and really do a service and almost act as an employee or do multiple tasks to complete and understand what its goals are is pretty crazy. And so, I saw a graph the other day where it kind of showed where we're at in the evolution of AI, and we're at the top of the first third of where it potentially goes. And to that super computing, like the smartest person has all the information, solve global hunger is that top level, right? And so we first opened this stuff up just soon after COVID. I mean, look at where cell phones are in the last. I mean, those just came out. Really, the iPhone in 2006 or something, right? So and look at us now, and that's not 2006 was not that long ago. So just imagine the difference in that space. And so we have to be flexible as educators. Like, we have to be able to monitor this stuff, look at some of these things that can have a bias. And I think we were discussing earlier, it's not necessarily, we always look at the privacy policies, make sure ages are appropriate because it's giving information. We have to educate, though. That's the best thing to do, is to let students know, when you ask it to create an image, the person might have 6 fingers. That same issue is going to be in text that it gives you. And it's always going to act like it's super right? And so you have to be able to know and recognize those things and have the knowledge. So it's very important in the bias. We have to make sure teachers understand this, that it can marginalize and do things that are unexpected because it looks so shiny and clean. But that becomes an educational conversation, and we do that internally. We make sure our teachers understand every training we have. We discuss privacy. We discuss the bias that can be created, and we have to hope that teachers are very intentional about kind of filtering the information as they're utilizing these tools.
Good.
Yeah, well, you kind of talked about trying to educate students on the pitfalls of it and the dangers of it. So how are you doing that? How are you going forward with the students and saying, hey, this is something that you've got to be wary of, you've got to be aware of before you use it?
Yeah. So a lot of this, so we've done, I would say in Oklahoma, we probably had the first district-wide AI training. I mean, it was over almost 2 years ago now when we first, I mean, we did this before even Magic School came out. Our first training was just over ChatGPT, and we did full district training. I mean, I think we got standing ovations after every one of those trainings because it's like you're a magician. It's like a magic show. And if you haven't played with these tools, it will just blow you away on what they can do. And it's almost like as a trainer, like when I get to go to the districts or do training here, it's way different than it was before. When I started training on Canvas, it's like, guys, I promise you this is going to be good. Just like stay with me. Let's do this. But with AI, they can quickly see and adopt because it's so user friendly, and it just helps. I mean, it's like it's taken such a big load off of them so they can really do that. So really what we have done is we have looked at how often can we get in front of teachers. One thing that we've discussed recently is because of the vast majority of tools, can we filter that down? Can we reduce the noise? Because if you've been in education long enough, in the early, like 2014 was like the app craze, right? And there was an instructional app. This has all happened before, right? So the apps came out, right? And there's an app for everything, right? Remember the phrase, there's an app for that. Yeah. Well, that happened in education, and that became strenuous. Like people didn't, like they just gave up. It's kind of like the Costco thing, right? You know that Costco only has like 2 brands, and they only have 2 options for mustard because they know that they've done this study where like if there's 5 options for mustard, people just don't buy it, right? Because they're just like, I don't want to choose. And so when we want to do that same thing, reduce the number of things we're pushing out, find the thing that covers the most basis, and make sure that we train on really the knowledge. You can apply the same knowledge to all the tools when you're trained around them and when you're in that space. So when it comes to students, we don't have the same kind of network to influence students as teachers do. We feel like that's the powerful connection. Yeah, we send out, flyers. We'll talk about things like that. But our most powerful communication tool is teachers' utilizations in the classrooms. We are developing like a vision and guidelines where we talk a lot about like a rubric for using AI, and this would be student facing, where it's like, hey, this assignment is a level 1. This assignment's a level 4, right? Level 1 means, no AI. Level 2 would be utilizing at this level all the way to full service AI. And the assignment's driven by the fact that if you use it to your best ability, that you're still learning, right? And that's a hard thing as an educator. That's brand new. We call that like authentic assessment, where, if you gave all of us an assignment, what we would produce would be vastly different from each other because it's at a personal level. And that's hard to do in all of our curriculums and all our things, but that's the best way learning really happens. And it's a lot more effort for teachers because now it's individualized, but we talk a lot about that. How can we put more weight on those types of experiences for students is a powerful thing. So we really do lean on our teachers to have those conversations about the content that they receive back, how to filter that content. I know we talk a lot, teachers use that example of creating an image and then find the mistakes. You know those old magazines when we were kids where you had to circle the things that are different? So we do that. We really emphasize that with our, like, hey, do this activity, and kids like it, right? But then they don't really know why they're doing it until afterwards, and they find all these mistakes. But then they want to utilize it for an essay that they think is perfect and true. Those same mistakes are in the written piece. Yeah. And that's how we can kind of tie those things back. But we're living in that world right now. In a year from now, I mean, we're already seeing that the image generation is now given the correct digits on fingers. It's the text is actually the words that you ask it for. So it's getting better. I mean, we've heard this before, right? And I've probably said this on a podcast before, but it's the worst it will ever be right now. Yeah. And it's pretty amazing, I mean, that's scary. But also this is how I look at it. At the end of the day, if we change the starting point, then we can change the finish line, right? So like before AI, you'd have to start at a blank sheet of paper, right? And your goal was to get here, right? If we can change this and get AI to do a lot of this stuff for us here. When we move the starting here, where could we be instead? And that's kind of the way I look at it. If we can change the starting point, maybe we can get further. Maybe that's in relationships. Maybe that's in human connection. Maybe that's in actual physical work. I mean, all those things can help drive, society to success. And that's the positive outlook.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I don't want to keep kind of going back to the same things, but in what ways does AI elevate teaching, and maybe more specifically in lesson planning or addressing diverse learning styles? Like for me, I'm a visual learner, so it may be a little bit easier for me to grasp AI, technology. But for somebody who's maybe audible or tangible, those kind of things, is that a little harder for them to address AI with those students?
I don't think so, because exactly what you're talking about, like the artificial intelligence can help you come up with those activities to make it more accessible for those different learning styles. It's there to be able to help you adapt the lesson so that my visual learners will have this visual cue, my auditory learners will have this type of, my hands-on learners will have this type of thing. So that's the beautiful part about it, is that it will adapt those lessons, help you differentiate to meet the needs of each kid. And back to what Brandon said a long time ago, all comes back to student learning. Right. And so if this is a tool that will help empower teachers to be able to put those students first so that they can learn the way that they learn best, then that's what we want to do. We want to give them that ability to be able to do that. So for me, that's where the power lies for a teacher, is to be able to generate those things, not have to think about. I mean, the great part about AI is that I can ask for 5 or 10 examples of activities to do, and then I have a pick list, right? And so maybe it's a situation where I, as the teacher, choose from that, or I allow the kid, say, hey, you've got 3 choices here that are all visual or within your scope, or a way I think you would learn best, but you get to pick which one. And so now it's not only like catering to those specific learners, but it's now catering to that specific child and what motivates them or what their interest is. And take this scenario and rewrite it to emphasize sports or history. You talk about the cross-curricular opportunities of being able to embed historical elements into literature or a writing exercise that we're doing in the classroom. So I think there's limitless possibility for us to be able to take a look at that and how to be able to use it effectively.
So many different types of learners as well. How is it making learning equitable for students with special needs or students that are English language learners? Those students are also going to have to adjust to this AI technology.
Absolutely.
How does that work?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that step one is to ensure equitability of access, right, to the technology, right. In some of our special ed classrooms, they might have a different device to be able to access technology. For our English language learners, we might use different tools to be able to ensure that they're learning in the classroom or other supports as well. But the beauty of that is that the artificial intelligence provides us the adaptability to ensure that those students have access, right? It's like a gateway to ensure that, okay, I can tell it. One of the things they specify is, like, if you're using artificial intelligence, you should always give it a role. Identify, what's your role? What do you want? How do you want it to respond? So in the prompt, you can literally type, as an EL teacher in an elementary classroom dealing with a 5th grade student that just came here from whatever country you want to specify and has a language barrier, what are some activities I could do specifically to talk about or teach them about a concept that we're having in the classroom, or help them transition to these math facts or whatever it is. And so that's the beauty in it, is that when you identify specialized populations, it's going to provide us resources that teachers had to go search for before and still can. I mean, we have a lot of our teachers that, it's not because AI exists that I use AI for everything. It's just another tool in the tool belt. And I think that, for me, that's the important part. And because of its iterative process and it's moving so quickly, I think it's really important we continue to evaluate it. And, we don't, kind of become laser focused on this is the tool we have to use, right? It's about having a broad range of tools to be able to have as resources for teachers.
For sure. Yeah, I think we've come a long way. I mean, you talked about having one computer in your classroom, and when I was in school, it was computer labs. You had to go to a specific room, and now it's completely evolved.
Yeah.
It's very different. But one thing that's always going to be a fear as we get further and further into AI is data protection, right? And making sure that students' data isn't ending up in the wrong hands. And how is Broken Arrow Public Schools going out of their way to make sure that Broken Arrow's students have their data protected?
Yeah, so in general, that's no different than any other piece of software we ever purchase or have an agreement with. There are specific guidelines that they have to follow with regards to FERPA and SIPA and COPA and all of those acronyms that you can throw at people. But ultimately, our student data and our staff data is really important. And so because of how we use those tools, it's important for us to educate educators not to put personalized information in there, right? You can speak about students generically. You don't want to identify Ashley specifically, but it's no different than any other piece of software. A lot of the software that we use, like when we talk about Canvas or School AI or Magic School or whatever that's out there for where we have a potential integration or they take student data. It's all part of an agreement that's been signed, right? And so because they're bound by contract when we enter those agreements, they have to have certain data protections and that sort of thing to be able to ensure that data is protected and not shared, and just like we would do for any piece of curricular software that might have an integration, or our student data or student information system, which houses all of our student data. Those same protections are embedded across the board.
So what professional and developmental opportunities are available to help teachers effectively and responsibly integrate AI into their classrooms? We talked about those lessons plans and some of those other ways that things could get really, really interesting. But today, what's available for those teachers?
Well, I'd like to brag about that. I mean, I think that we're on the forefront of supporting our teachers in Broken Arrow Public Schools. I mean, we have the best support for our teachers. We have instructional specialists for almost every content. We have digital learning specialists that are there to ensure the success with technology. And those are the people that really carry the weight of this piece. And so, like I said before, we were probably the first to have training over AI. We have done multiple we've done a whole district over the foundation of it, the things to really look for, the dangers, the excitement. Really, we cover a lot of prompt engineering, which is what, and that's just how to write a prompt and never just write it once. And then, we always say this is like the more you give to AI, the more it's you that it gives back. Right? Like if you just give it one thing and you take it back, well, then you can't really call that like a lot of you or yours. And so the more you iterate, the more you edit, the more you give it information to get what you want, then you're really putting yourself into that. And that's where your expertise can come from that piece. And so these people continuously go into our classrooms. I mean, they do site visits twice a week to our sites. They walk around, they help teachers with these tools and make sure that they're being used, effectively for student learning. One story about that specifically that happens in real time all the time is we've had some issues at the high school when it comes to our English department, having real concerns about the validity of their essay writing and what that looks like, because I'm also work a lot in our virtual school, and think about the insanity of basically like the teachers creating these things and then them just continuously getting AI submission of work, and then they're trying to identify what's real and what's not and ensure that learning's happening, because that goes back to the root of this. And so our English department's really dealing with that because that's a big part of the writing. And so we're actually going to start a monthly group in August with any of our English teachers at the upper level that would like to participate. We're going to create a space. We're going to come with basically we're going to facilitate instructions, really listen to their concerns, what they're dealing with, and utilize our expertise to try to find those things. And I think there's going to have to be a balance between, we have discussions about what is important in the space. And some of that has to go back to the state and what the state says, this is the outcome that we want students to reach. We've got to evaluate those things because those were created before all this stuff happened, right? And so we're at kind of the mercy of that happening before we can really push into like the expectations that we have. So we have to find that balance between, we make sure that they're meeting the requirements, but not at the sacrifice of our teachers, feeling effective. Because when students are continuously using these tools in ways of avoidance, then teachers really struggle with, their purpose and kind of like what they're trying to accomplish in their classrooms. And so it really comes down to that authentic assessment piece of it, finding ways in which we can have the students in those English classes use the tool, and then kind of go from there. Like have them maybe write it out on a piece of paper, then type that into AI, and then have the AI give it iteration back. So it's kind of blending those two pieces together. And so we always try to monitor the space, our teachers, how they're doing, and find ways that we can befriend that AI to them so that they can try to make sure that their students are gaining that knowledge as well so that they can be successful in the future.
Yeah. There at the end of your answer, you kind of started talking about the students and how are they being empowered to responsibly use AI and creatively use AI within the classroom.
Yeah. So, I think that goes back to the fact that it comes to the teachers, right? Like if the teachers know the answer to that question, then they're going to be putting that in play. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit, it's a slow growth. That's the reality, is we have to understand that we can't fix it all right now. We're in this really fast development stage, and we're trying to stay ahead with some information and policy and things that are in the past, right? And so we're trying to manage the best use of this situation to where our students still benefit, and overall our goal is to prepare students for the future, and that we're still doing that. So to work with the students, my thing is if it was a classroom that I'd be super proud of leading, you would see students being exposed to that. Then you'd see activities where they're not. You would be able to find ways in which you can pull students in a disconnected AI way, but then utilize AI to go to that knowledge. One of my biggest fears is we create a generation, I talk about this a lot, is where right now we have professionals using AI. So you have these people that have coming into this technology that have prior knowledge about their space, and they earned it, right? They earned it through struggle. When you learn, it's a challenge, right? And so they're having a lot of success with AI because it's a partnership. My worry is as we develop our youth, if we do not teach them to still continue to learn through struggle and rigor, that they always use this tool to avoid learning, then what does that look like in 25 years from now when the people that have earned the knowledge and worked through that rigor are now older and out of the space?
Good.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You don't want the productive struggle is where the learning happens, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't want a world where, I'm reliant upon the AI for what my thoughts are, mm-hmm. right? It should be a resource again, not a supplement to your actual knowledge. That's a really good point.
Well, in talking about the future, things are going to continue to evolve. You've talked about it. We're only at that first peak, mm-hmm. so things are going to continue to grow and grow in a big way. What are the district's long-term goals for AI in education? How do we plan to stay ahead of those emerging trends in this field? Anyone can answer that one. You may be able to speak to that too.
Well, I think it's you've got to have the understanding. You both mentioned it. The biggest impact on our students is our teachers' relationship with them first. Mm-hmm. We've got to never lose focus of that and what's happening in the classroom, that students feel valued and heard. And I don't ever want to put AI above that. Again, we're doing a lot of things academically. We're really focused on our instructional practices in the classroom and how students are interacting there. And to me, that's a big part of it. That again, we're going to push into that AI world, but we're not going to make it first and foremost in the classroom. And I think we've got to use our experts and the people that are charged, and you two are really the two in the district that are leading it right now. And I appreciate the job you do of, again, vetting those resources out. We want our parents to know this isn't anything we're just shooting from the hip and buying the first thing out there without really going in and checking things. That's from a district superintendent perspective, that's big to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think you have to be kind of, to circle back to something I said earlier, but you have to continue to be evaluative, right? Because it is changing so fast. We just have to be reflective and continue to evaluate these tools and figure out how do they best fit into our space, not how do we fit into its space, right? And so I think keeping our kids and teachers the focus of what we're doing, and making sure that this isn't the sole focus, kind of what you're saying there, but we have to evaluate how that fits into our space and how do we continue to use it in a way that benefits our kids. And then also, I think along with that is just acknowledging the places where it can be a struggle, right? And then what do we do differently to be able to acknowledge that and deal with it? So to your point, having a meeting with groups of teachers and being able to talk about what are the struggles you're having with AI and what are solutions we can come to be able to address those situations. I think that shows that we value those teachers and what they're doing in the classroom each and every day, and they're not becoming subservient to a tool that's there.
And we're not the be all end all. Like, one thing, if we have our teachers actually watching this right now, and I would love, like, if you have ideas, I mean, reach out to us. And if you're struggling, reach out to us, because we all learn together, right? We only know those things are happening if we're in the conversation. And so it's really important to integrate those things, because I think one of my jobs is to stay on the forefront of this, right? Like, so I mean, I have a couple podcasts that I follow, and some authors that I follow that I try to listen and read all of it, right? This is what they're doing every day and looking in the space. And, we're really supported in the district to be able to visit conferences and really integrate and collaborate with people outside of our district and even outside of our state, because it's going to take a lot to keep up with this, more than we've had to keep up with anything in the past. This is going to, and it's directly affecting our teachers too. And in a space where we're trying to retain educators and get people in here, you have to be more flexible than ever to be an educator. But I do believe that it's going to give our teachers their passion back that has been robbed from them the last 20 years of so much adoption of tasks. And I always say this, whenever I get to talk to teachers, I show them a picture of a bucket that's overflowing. And I say, what does this mean to you? And they all have the same answer, right? This is like, that's our job, right? Like, they keep pouring into the bucket and no one ever takes anything out of the bucket. And then I show them a bucket dumping some water out, right? And I said, this is AI, guys. If you can use it the right way, you can find ways to start emptying that bucket and fill it back up with kids.
You're right. And the teaching has become so prescriptive over the past 20 years, where there's not much of the art of teaching as there used to be, and the creativity is slowly being pulled from the art of teaching. And I hope this gives it back, and I think it'll ultimately really introduce some kids to some areas they may not even know they have strengths in, and at the end of the day, provide those career pathways that they can latch on to and really shine and provide for themselves down the road as adults.
Well, and I think something that I always look at is, like, they publicize some of those, the skills of the future, and what our kids are going to need in the future. Like, if I can create a website just through a conversation right now, when my seventh graders graduated, what does that look like for them? And they say, the best thing that we can do for kids is teach them how to collaborate, and teach them to be leaders and to work well with others. And what are we doing in that space right now, right? We're taking action through our Kagan and cooperative learning structures that are happening pre-K through 12. And so I think that was probably this unassumed timely thing, right? Like we didn't do that on purpose, but when you lay it out on paper, I think I'd be coming to you saying we have to do something to get kids in this kind of conversation right now more than ever. And, it's whatever that forethought was and that collaborative kind of structure of teaching and getting all kids engaged is important, because if there comes a time, when students are learning in these different ways and stuff, that's going to be the skill that our students are going to have. And I'm really proud to be a part of a district that's looking at both sides.
And that goes all the way up to our school board. I can't say enough good things about them as they keep that in the forefront of what we're doing as a district. Lots of discussions with them that we don't get behind, that we stay progressive and don't get stagnant.
Right.
I like that you guys keep using the word forefront, because Broken Arrow really is at the forefront of this. And I want to ask you guys one last question is how can the district benefit from being at the forefront and an early adopter of AI technology in the classroom?
Yeah, well, how can we benefit? Our jobs, again, if we go back to the root, I think we said a couple times, is it's about students and teaching and engaging kids. And in a world where teaching has become maybe more disengaging because the kids that come in, they're highly distracted. To earn a kid's attention at this point is back when we were in the classroom, it's just different now. I couldn't even imagine, and so in a world where that's happening, I think this is a timely situation to where we can find ways to tie kids back to things that are engaging, and that engagement comes from interaction, right? You can say all day long that a lesson's engaging, but a person's engaging. And if a person can create engaging experiences and we can give some of that time back, that creativity back, that space back for teachers to really go back to the passion that they have, I think that's where we benefit. So being at the forefront of this, it truly impacts our students, our teachers' experience in education, and then it goes right back to our families and our future success in our community, right? One cool thing is, I do get to go around to area schools and talk about AI. The reason this happens is I get to go to conferences, and I always try to speak at conferences because it challenges me, because I have to know what I'm doing, right? So it pushes me to research more and to do these things, and being out and doing those, I get asked to go to schools. I was at a school within 30 miles from us right now. And I spoke with 80 teachers. When I asked if they knew about ChatGPT, which is the most foundational thing, I had one person raise their hand. And that's just kind of crazy, because that, I guarantee their students are all well aware of that, right? Yeah. And so to be empowered to stay in front of that and really to be able to siphon some energy to ensure it's important. It's high on the list, right? And so I'm really proud to be part of a district that is putting that energy in the right place.
That's a really good point that I hadn't thought of until just this moment. And that is that, kids are going to be aware of it regardless. Right. And so it's our job to empower those educators so that they know how to best use those tools, because our kids, they're gonna explore it. They're going to be exposed to it, all those kinds of things. They're going to know, and a lot of times know more about it than adults do. And so that's part of the challenge, I think, for us, is to ensure that our educators are equipped to be able to use it effectively. And because kids are so drawn to technology and they want to be able to use it, then that's another way to pull them in. It's another hook to be able to get them, engaged in the classroom. And I think that can be a really powerful tool in that way. So.
Well, I think if you've listened to this entire podcast, you can take away one thing for sure, and that's these two guys are very passionate about artificial intelligence and technology. I think if any teachers have questions, they can email you guys, ask you, reach out to you guys.
So I always plug that route. The success team at baschools.org. Those people are amazing. They'll get right back to you. You feel free to reach out to us as well, and we'll make sure that, that's why we're here to serve from top down. That's why we're in positions we are, is because of our teachers and our students. And if we can make sure that our teachers are successful, then our students are going to be too. And that's why we're here. So don't hesitate. We're here to serve.
Yeah. I'm really excited, kind of from a somewhat of an outside perspective, just to see how much this thing grows within the classroom. and see what it looks like here in just a few years. I think it can be really special and really connect students with learning in a different way that we've not seen before. So, well, I hope you've learned something today if you've been listening. I think I've learned a few things. But if you are looking for any more Core Values podcasts, you can find us anywhere you're looking for your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Hulu, wherever it is. Not Hulu. I'm Spotify. That's what I had a green logo in my head. All right, guys, I got to get my AI thing down here.
Hey, maybe we can get on Hulu.
That's not a bad idea.
Get it a plug.
How about MySpace?
Yeah, maybe not. We don't have it on CDs anymore, I'll tell you that much. But hey, but definitely tune into any of our Core Values podcasts. A lot of really special things going on in the district, and you can learn so much from AI, but also learn so much about our district through these podcasts. And we thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Ashley Bowser, for being here. Thank you, Mr. Brandon Chitty, and Mr. Chuck Perry for joining me as well. We hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.